This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Want to pull off the season's freshest trends? You just need the right shoes. That's where Designer Shoe Warehouse comes in. Loving wide-leg jeans? Pair them with sleek, low-profile sneakers. Obsessed with the sheer trend? Try it with mesh flats. Feeling boho? Comfy sandals nail the whole free-spirited thing. Find on-trend shoes from the brands you love, like Birkenstock, Nike, Adidas, and more at DSW.
Career changers, including veterans and active duty service members. Your transition starts here. Go from GI to IT in a matter of months. Become a certified cyber warrior with training at My Computer Career. Cybersecurity specialists are in high demand, offering IT pros great opportunities and a rewarding lifestyle while protecting our people, liberty, and treasured institutions from cyber threats. Deploy your career in IT today. Learn more at mycomputercareer.edu/CWP. SkillBridge and other VA benefits are available to those who qualify.
Let your imagination take flight with an AI-powered PC from Lenovo. Whether it's creating digital art, designing new software, or building a portfolio for a future career, our PCs are powered by Intel Core Ultra processors to help students unlock smarter learning and unleash their creativity. That's the power of Lenovo with Intel inside. All you have to do is choose the one that fits your passion. Head to Lenovo.com to shop AI PCs and find your perfect companion. Plus, get 5% off when you create an education account.
Nordo in for PA on the fan. Vocal maintenance season, ladies and gentlemen. And right out of the gates, Brett Blakemore produces. Eventually, I'll hit you with the Timber Tech set list. Hockey heavy today. There's Mr. Russo in the mix. Unbelievable game one to the Stanley Cup final last night. Overtime winner, Draisaitl and the Edmonton Oilers up 1-0 on the Florida Panthers. We will get to that. Some sad news for the Twins with Pablo Lopez. We got bits. Ben Gessling will be in studio. Vikings OTAs. Some audio from Harrison Phillips. So a lot to get to, 9 to noon. But we do it periodically and really appreciate his time when he's willing to do so. Parker Fox, a Power Trip morning show, in this case, holdover, hanging out for another segment. Because another final series starts tonight. In the NHL, it's final, singular. In the NBA, it's finals, plural. I don't know if you have a big existential opinion on that. But game one tonight, man. It's down in Oklahoma City. Pacers at the Thunder. Game one, 7:30 p.m. on ABC. First of all, how are you doing?
I'm good. Yeah, things are good.
How pumped are you for game one tonight?
I'm pumped. I think you're right, though. I guess it is a final, right? There's not multiple finals happening.
The series itself
is a final.
One
right?
entity. Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess that's where I go. I'm excited. Yeah, I think this is it's different in the NBA. You're not having one of these perennial superstars, one of these old, LeBron James, Steph Curry type of guys that led his team to the finals again. And you're getting these two kind of smaller markets. So I think it's interesting for NBA fans. I don't know if it'll draw the viewership that having some of these big names like the Knicks or somebody else in the finals will draw. I guess we'll have to wait and see. But I think this is going to be really high level competitive basketball. And if you're a hoops junkie, you're going to love this finals.
Well, that we will dig into, but since you went down that road of the market, it is kind of the battle of the cornfields, right?
Yeah.
And I saw Adam Silver, I believe he was on ESPN yesterday, and there was a quote, and I was just doom scrolling on X, but kind of the idea that OKC Indy in this series, he was likening it to the NFL, where if it's Packers and Steelers in the Super Bowl, nobody balks at that. They're excited for it. And, in this case, that particular example, we're talking, 5-6 Super Bowls for the Steelers, the equity, of course, of the hated green and gold, Lambeau, toilet paper, peeing in sinks, etc. But of course, two teams in an NFL that have a lot of history behind them. And then you have OKC and Indy. But I think his point was kind of from a market size that the NFL is, and this is obvious to everybody that watches these sports, that the NFL is at a stage where the Super Bowl is such a spectacle. And it's such a community gathering moment, really, that it transcends even the two teams that are on the field outside of those two fan bases. The NBA has not found that.
No.
But he kind of talks about, well, that's the effort upon which, that's the direction the league is going. And yesterday we were at a Vikings charity tournament. PA and I were kind of shooting back and forth, kind of really about the the growth of the NBA. So at one point you were having a hard time just getting live hoops on television, or it was going to be, we're talking, dunks after dark, literally 11 p.m. tip-offs.
Oh my.
But then you had Magic versus Bird. You start, and that kind of, growing from there, evolving from there, big market teams really dominating the conversations. So do you think, if you're hearing what Adam Silver is saying, do you, as a guy that has dedicated a fair amount of his life to playing this sport and certainly ingesting and loving the content, do you believe that there's a pathway to a day when an indie OKC series wouldn't be scoffed at as a battle of the cornfields?
Yeah, I mean, I hope so, right? As a basketball guy, you hope that people just love the sport and want to watch it for kind of what it is, And I think, I don't know if you want to hate on the ESPNs of the world when it comes to that, because all they cover during the regular season is Lakers, Knicks, and whatever it may be. So you're already kind of putting it down.
They pick the most favored
type
teams.
Of those situations. And I think it's great, right? Any coverage is good coverage. Any publicity is good publicity. But now you have the two best teams in the league, and I think if you ask people throughout the regular season if this Oklahoma City team is the best team in the league, there's people across the NBA would say they're that good, and they deserve to be here. So I think if you're not watching this because you're not seeing LeBron or you're not seeing this big market, I think you're kind of misconstrued. This is going to be some really good basketball, and I think the MVP is here. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, 33 points a game, six assists. He's here. He's playing, and then on the other side you got Tyrese Halliburton, who's doing awesome things as well. So if you're about the basketball, this is going to be a good place for you.
Now, I saw this. I think it's some FanDuel podcast, I believe, and I think it was Lou. Williams chatting with Boogie Cousins.
6-man.
DeMarcus Cousins, who is blushing at the technical foul count that Anthony Edwards accrued this year. He tips his cap to it out of respect. But Boogie talking with Lou, he had this to say specifically about OKC.
I think that's obvious. I think we're looking at the beginning of a dynasty anyway. Even if, let's say they don't win it this year, we're going to sit here and say they won't be the favorite the next season. I mean, it's absolutely the start of a dynasty. I think it's a dynasty that'll be even more powerful than what we saw with the Warriors. And the reason I say that, when the Warriors were in their heyday and they had everything rolling, they never had the assets that this Thunder team has. This Thunder team is probably built to be successful for the next 10, 12 years, which is unheard of.
Well, it's bad luck for the Howl if Boogie's right.
Darn it.
With that said, and we would, as Wolves fans, want to buck that trend. If we're talking about big city, bright lights, and big network prime time exposure, we want to be the team in the cornfields that bucks that trend. What you heard from Boogie there with Lou, and all things considered, the age of your big three on that roster combined with an absolute boatload of picks over the next 5 to 7 years. Where's your head at? I mean, it's tough to call dynasties.
Yeah.
But that's what I think, NBA has created that culture of dynasties and created the culture of the impenetrable force. It's always been a very star-laden league. You think Boogie's on to something?
I think he is. I really do think he is. This is a Thunder team that really set themselves up well. In 2026, they're going to have their own first-round pick, and they're going to have a second-round pick from Dallas. In 2027, they're going to have their own first-round pick, and then another first-round pick from the Clippers. 2028, they're going to have their own first-round pick, and then another one from the Bucks. Like, this is a team that is just absolutely stacked picks. And yeah, you might get some guys out of the draft, but we know how much the NBA and these trade deals love throwing picks around and just and just throwing them at different guys. And then you see you're seeing talk right now about KD and this Timberwolves talk and all this other kind of stuff. But this Oklahoma City team has a core that they truly believe in when it comes to Chet Holmgren, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Jalen Williams. And how can they build around that? What pieces do they need to add? They're already probably going to win a championship this year. So it's scary to think that they can add even more better and pieces that are going to fit into that team well. So it's going to be weird to see Oklahoma City as a team that is said dynasty. I heard the Pacers had to reroute their flight because of tornadoes in Oklahoma City. So it's weird that a dynasty is going to be happening in that city. But it's exciting for that team, and it's very disappointing if you're the Howl to hear this kind of news.
Yeah, and I didn't need to hear Boogie say it. Fearing that's a little hyperbolic, but I don't look forward to the Thunder the next 3 to 4 years.
No thanks.
And, kind of doing that comparison. Well, Ant's 3 years younger than SGA. That is very true. We have not seen the best of Anthony Edwards yet. Super excited to get to that.
Totally.
To that plateau or, that ascension, I should say. But with that said, I mean, it's going to be an absolute just grind against this team for years to come. So with that said, Parker Fox at Parker Fox 24 via X. Can the Pacers win it?
I don't think they can, man. I really don't. I would love to see a really good series. I'd love to see a 7-game series and just some competitive basketball. Watching that hockey game last night, that was an awesome start to this kind of finals for hockey and basketball fans. But I just don't think the Pacers have enough. The Thunder won both of their regular season matchups versus the Pacers, and now I've said in the past the regular season matchups don't matter as much. This is playoff time. Teams play harder, but there's no team that plays as hard as the Oklahoma City Thunder. So when you talk about a team that's really built for the playoffs and really built with depth and versatility, just the ability that Oklahoma City has to rotate players in and keep fresh bodies, and that just wears on you in a 7-game series. The Pacers just don't have that. Now I think their starting lineups can equal each other out. They can cancel each other out. But the depth and the keep going at it ability that Oklahoma City has is just going to wear you down over a 7-game series. And I think that they have too much. They have too much resilience, too much consistency. They've done it all year. I think there's some crazy stat where they have some of the most 15-point wins throughout the regular season in NBA history. They're deep, they're talented, and I think this is their year to kind of start their dynasty.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Thunder will absolutely win, and I don't think it'll be a long series.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 5 games.
I called 5 earlier.
Yeah. I think 5 games is probably the right answer. So from that stand, it won't be an elongated battle of the cornfields. A few more for you before I let you hit the road here. What about this disaster with the Knicks? And so I want to start with Tibbs getting canned, playoffs 4 out of 5 years. And this is the deepest run in nearly a quarter century, playoffs wise, for the Knicks this year, losing 2 said Pacers. But is there, whether it was Taylor Jenkins in Memphis, then Michael Malone in Denver, and now Tibbs?
Yeah.
Those are 3 playoff teams, one of which Memphis kind of threw me, and I don't know all the inside of it, but they were on the grind, still trying to compete for a top 4 seed. And they said, see you later. And we know about Malone, and David Adelman takes over. I think he's going to be the full-time permanent coach hire. And now Tibbs. Is there something in terms of the investment in the players, the investment in the idea of the personnel mix, to where they're starting to see that these coaches are potentially more expendable?
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it. I always get confused, just as the common fan. I see some of these firings, and I'm like, how did that happen? Why did that happen? I think Guardsy was talking about yesterday, just they were highlighting the Phoenix Suns and just the coaching changes that they made through the years there, and coaches that have won championships.
How about Monty Williams getting fired after what he had? I think the league. Well, he got the most money with Detroit afterwards, but getting rid of Monty the way they did.
It's just it's crazy to see kind of some of the way that these GMs and team presidents kind of go about, and we don't see everything, right? Like there's so much probably behind the scenes that is going on that we obviously miss, but it just shows you really anybody's expendable. And it shows you this year, Luka Doncic was expendable. So there's nobody that's safe when it comes to these positions. And I think in a way that's a good thing, right? Because we know that kind of comfortability kind of breeds, kind of stagnant energy and stagnant water. But, it's interesting to see a team like New York, and I think I saw some funny jokes about how Cat got Thibodeau fired twice now, and so you got to throw a little slander on Karl Anthony Towns. But no, this is a New York Knicks team that seemed to be kind of going in the right direction and trusting. Thibodeau's kind of a different coach. He's he plays his guys hard. He has his guys. He runs with them. So maybe Leon Rose and Scott Perry, the GM and the president of the Knicks, said, we don't want this style. Yeah. So that has to be kind of the decision that's made behind the scenes. And now it's, hey, who steps in? Is whether that's a Jay Wright or a Mike Malone or a Johnny Bryant. I don't know who that looks like, but the Knicks are going to have a lot of guys to choose from, and they have a great core moving forward. So I don't think you're too concerned if you're this Knicks team.
Is Cat just easy to rip on?
I think he is, right? I think he is. Well, he puts himself in those positions, right?
This is preposterous what's been happening to him, and the fan base It's not unlike what's happened here in Minnesota, right?
No,
where
totally.
season comes to an end. Are you judging mannerisms? Are you judging he didn't say the right thing in a post-game presser, or it's a social media post or a podcast, whatever? The fans have really come to his defense, but going from hero to zero the way that New York media has treated him and some national hoops guys, Cat is just getting buried. And then you got jackasses like, what was it, Gilbert Arenas?
Yeah.
Just taking him deep.
No chill, Gil.
Yeah. Gilbert's not exactly coming from a position of superiority there.
No, Gilbert doesn't have anything that he can say either, man. That guy is...
It's crazy how Cat, as beloved as he was for most of the year, I think maybe the money's part of it too. Yeah. I think he's going to make 60-something this year. But the way that you go from integral piece, you can't get to where you are without him, to now after the season, what was it, Kevin O'Connor, a guy that I follow, that's their number one priority, is trading Cat this year.
It's crazy, right?
I mean, just tearing it down like dynamite in just a second. Now, I must ask you this, because you've played, whether it's AAU, playing college at a high level. Have you ever experienced a sports dad that was just kind of a clomper?
Oh, yeah,
because this Rick Brunson thing is so fascinating.
They bring their iPads, they set it up on a stand at half court, and they're recording the whole game, moving back and forth. And I don't know. There's a lot of different AAU dads. There's actually there's an account out there. I think it's on X. It's called AAU Bingo, and it's like basically like these crazy things that happen during an AAU game that you would never expect. And I didn't have that on my bingo card, right? So you're seeing a lot, but Rick Brunson is definitely one of those dads. And now this is an AAU. This is the New York Knicks, and you have the coaching staff in front of 20,000 in Madison Square Garden every single night. And he started the year off poorly too, with this Dante DiVincenzo scuffle early in the season with the Wolves. I think you have to give Rick Brunson a lot of credit for creating what Jalen Brunson is. And, he obviously pushed him hard throughout his childhood, and he's now one of the best players in the NBA. So give a guy like that credit. But to have him on your coaching staff, there seems to be a lot of people displeased with Rick Brunson kind of being around and probably being a little too active.
Well, and it's obnoxious that all this stuff comes out now. I mean, I just picture it, maybe, if I'm McCall Bridges or Emoji Anunoby, and we're sitting there and Tibbs is kind of putting stuff together, and secretly for 4 months I've been thinking, man, Brunson kind of dribbles the air out of the ball a little bit. And then I hear Dad Rick over there trashing me, trashing one of the other teammates. This is how we get Jalen the ball in this particular spot.
Yeah.
Like, that just seems like in the long term that would be, unless you're winning titles every year and you're cool with it, that would be an untenable situation in the long term, with, even at the highest level, a sports dad just clipping on everything.
On your coaching staff, too. I don't care how good you are, right? Like, there's not a single guy that can win you championships. Like, we've seen LeBron do some awesome stuff. We see Jordan and Curry do some awesome stuff. But Jalen Brunson isn't that kind of player, right? Like, he's very great, very good player. Like, give him his credit. But when you have a guy like Rick who's putting your son before the team in meetings and in conversations, and he's got this kind of boisterous personality about him, and he's calling people out, like, that doesn't breed success. Like, that's not how team sports work. So, Rick obviously was a guy with the Minnesota Timberwolves until I think May-ish of 2018, on the coaching staff with the Timberwolves. He's clearly been a guy that's kind of put himself in good positions in the NBA, and now I think it's kind of taken over now that Jalen's kind of rising to the top.
Last thing for you, whether it's the Kevin Durant steam, the Wolves kind of, I love the Wolves being part of the hysteria.
That's cool.
Hysteria, excuse me. I think it was Paul Pierce. I saw some bit, again, doom scrolling. I think it was Paul Pierce who was talking, what it would be like if Giannis joined the Timberwolves. Yeah. I mean, that kind of stuff, and dream weaving. This is a franchise where the most interesting part of the year was free agency for a very long time. But where's your head at on some of that stuff? And in, kind of the urgency, it sounds like Durant, and this is all agent speak, but we want to get something done by draft day, right? We want picks, we want this, we want that. But are you in on any of that steam?
I think it's hard because there's just so many avenues to cross with that conversation. I know Katie and Giannis are obviously huge names, and when you're a Minnesota sports fan,
people like names.
You love names because you're not bringing trophies home and that kind of situation. So I'm in that boat too as a fan where, hey, how fun would it be to have a Kevin Durant Minnesota Timberwolves jersey, and every single night I get to go down to the Target Center and watch KD or Giannis or one of those situations.
For a year and a half.
That's fun, right? But I think we want trophies here, and I think we want to try to win a championship, and what you have to give up for one of those guys like that is probably some of your top pieces like a Julius Randle and a Dante DiVincenzo, and then you're talking about digging into some core pieces of your future.
Self-defeating.
Exactly, and they're going to protect. I think they're going to protect guys like Terrence Shannon Jr., but Jalen Clark might be a name, or Rob Dillingham might be a name that you have to give up to get an older, KD. How old is KD now? He's getting into almost his 40s, so it's like, do they still have that kind of power to win championships? I don't know. Do they have that desire still to win championships?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Do they have the gear when it gets tough?
Exactly. So I think if you're the Timberwolves, in my opinion, if you're Tim Conley, who I hope the Timberwolves lock up and keep around for a long time because we've seen the excellence of Tim Conley, I think you just have to try to, trust your core. If there's a guy you might want to move on from because of his contract, Rudy Gobert, but there's not a lot of teams that want to take on that money. So I don't know. The
Phoenix wants a center.
Phoenix does want a center. They do want a center.
Look at Indy. They play with 5 guys who can provide offense, Parker.
They do. And if you can protect Nas and pay Nas the money he gets, and I think if you look at the Wolves, that starting lineup, not starting lineup, but the lineup with Nas Reed and some of those other guys was like the best lineup in the NBA this past year.
Bad.
It entices me, and then I get to not watch Rudy Gobert just miss catches and miss layups, and it just frustrates me watching that guy move around the court. So I don't know. It's tough. I think names are fun, but Nordo, we want championships here, and how do you do that? We got to try to figure that out.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thanks, Nordo.
That's Parker Fox, and Parker Fox at Parker Fox 24 via X, and he hung out an extra segment from the Power Trip Morning Show. And it's me, Nordo, in for PA the next couple of days. It's vocal maintenance season, 9 to noon. TimberTech set list is brought to you by TimberTech, timbertech.com. And Parker begins it. Russo will end it. He's joining me at 11. Game 1 last night, Stanley Cup final, was absolutely fantastic to watch. We'll break down more of that next segment. But Ben Gessling, Star Tribune, in studio. Heavy on the Vikings today with him during the middle hour. We got some Vikes bites in the mix, and opportunities for texts and talkbacks today, whether it was off what you saw yesterday and you're thinking about our favorite hockey team. How does our favorite hockey team get to be one of those two squads you watched last night? McDavid and Draisaitl, Bennett and Kachuk, oh my. How do we get there? Minnesota Twins win and lose yesterday with Pablo Lopez and that injury. We'll get into some of that. But Breck Blakemore produces. I'm Eric Nordquist. It's 9 to noon on The Fan.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It is Ryan Seacrest here. There was a recent social media trend which consisted of flying on a plane with no music, no movies, no entertainment. But a better trend would be going to ChumbaCasino.com. It's like having a mini social casino in your pocket. Chumba Casino has over 100 online casino-style games, all absolutely free. It's the most fun you can have online and on a plane. So grab your free welcome bonus now at ChumbaCasino.com. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
The Fan.
Farm Aid 40 is coming to Minneapolis. Join Willie Nelson, Neil Young, Dave Matthews, and more Saturday, September 20th at Huntington Bank Stadium. Celebrate 40 years of music, food, and family farming. Tickets on sale May 16th, so it's well underway here. Full details, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Draisaitl shoveled it out. A one-timer. Jake Wohlman, a save and a rebound. Score! Leon Draisaitl. 66 seconds in. It's 1-0 Edmonton.
And into the far corner then. It's Matthew Kachuk there to pick it up. Right circle shot. They score! And it's Carter Verhaeghe. He's able to bury one from the top of the right circle. And when you need a goal, you call Carter Verhaeghe. He comes up with a big one right there. 1-1 with 9:11 to go here in the first. Bennett in high slot, had it knocked away, held in by Rodriguez. Shot to the line, then taken by Schmidt. Backdoor shot, and they score! It's a power play goal for Brad Marchand, and the Panthers take a 2-1 lead. What a setup, and what a finish.
Schmidt in his 12th year with his 5th different team. Oilers move in left to right. Kapanen to the net. McDavid out front, shooting and scoring. Matthias Ekholm ties the game. 3-3. Brand new hockey game. Nugent Hopkins on the left half boards under pressure. Turns and gives it up. Beautiful pass. McDavid in front. One time and score! Leon Draisaitl! 4-3. Edmonton in overtime!
Oilers Radio, Florida Panthers radio networks, respectively. You can hear this on these airwaves. NHL Stanley Cup Final, courtesy of Sports USA. You can listen to that right here on the Fan. Game 2, I believe, is mañana. Nordo in for PA. Text line's open, 64686. Bradshaw and Brian, KFAN text line. The talkbacks via the free iHeartRadio app. You know, whether it's Fan on the Farm, of course. We were howling into the Western Conference Finals. Now we're watching other teams seek big trophies, and we envy them. Talkbacks always accepted. Vikings OTAs. Heavy on the purple here. Second hour of the show. Free iHeartRadio app. Hit that microphone. Give us up to your best 30 seconds. And we'll play it on the air. Looking forward to hearing them. This game last night, absolutely pure chaos in the rematch of rematches. Now, I was in for PA last week, and you told me you felt it was Edmonton's time, that it was Edmonton's turn, that it would not be a repeat, a back-to-back for said Panthers, that it would be McDavid and Draisaitl hoisting Lord Stanley's Cup by the end of this thing. What led you down that path, Brett?
Mostly just gut feeling, but I feel like it's McDavid's time and he's not going to let them lose. And I think you saw a little bit of that last night because they had every chance to just pack it in for the night. You're down 3-1. It was in relatively quick succession. And you come back the whole way, which is kind of an inverse of what happened last year where, you know, they were up 3-0 in the series and then let the Panthers get all the way back into it into Game 7 when they lose. You're down 3-1 in Game 1. And what do we know about 2-goal leads, Nordo? It's the most dangerous lead in hockey. You see it once again. And I feel like McDavid's not going to let him. I think the Panthers have more depth, but I think the Oilers have star level to another level with him and Draisaitl. And you saw it on the overtime winning goal.
You know, this isn't a Canada versus America thing for me. I'm looking at the NHL. I want the best. I think McDavid's the best player in the league.
Yeah.
And I think that I need the best player in the league to have a cup, to have a ring, so to speak, to have a championship. Not that I lose sleep over such things, but just seeing it, and especially as a Wild fan, seeing how clearly difficult it is to build around even an absolute stud star, and to support that movement and to find your way in a spot to win a title in the toughest, in some ways, toughest to predict postseason in the core four. I need McDavid to have a ring. And I don't think nobody's crying if, again, McDavid leaves the NHL someday with a ton of records statistically and a ton of admiration, reverence, and respect for his game and, you know, as quick a trip as possible to the Hall of Fame and all the accolades. No one's going to cry for him if he ends his career without a title. But it just feels weird to say that the best player in the league with what they, and then by the way, top 10, you can tell me if I'm stupid with this. Draisaitl has to be a top 7-ish, top 8 player in the NHL. And that's your cohort along the way.
He's really good.
And they've gone through first round pick L after first round pick L for year after year after year after year, trying to figure this thing out. The goaltending's been, unacceptably preposterous at times with that team.
Nail Yakupov, though.
And, but then, you can also say, like, a Nugent Hopkins is actually maybe a guy that didn't look great to start. That might be a problem, and he's kind of ascended into being a game-changing player now. So, But in the end, my point is they've tried everything over the last, again, 8-9 years. I don't have his start and stop date in terms of his debut, but they've tried everything to build around this. They get so close last year. They build an absolute hole, a team that has to put pressure, a team that can score from anywhere at any time, even if it's just 97 going through the center of the ice and just deciding he's going to do it himself. And the way that they were unable to score through the first three a year ago, just to even that series and then lose in Game 7, it's kind of it's tough to compare. But I think it's like Dan Marino not having a ring is just kind of weird. I don't cry for Dan Marino, but it's just kind of weird. And that's kind of how I look at McDavid as one of the greats. What a game last night! Now, I want to ask you this because again, I'm novice and I'm relying on you a lot here. Errands with mom aside. The first goal was Verhaeghe, but ultimately Bennett gets the credit for it.
Yes.
Because it bounces off. It was his calf or his skate potentially, deflects into the net. It was challenged by Edmonton because Bennett makes contact with Skinner. Now, Kulak, the blue liner, they rule that he took Sam Bennett's leg, and I know I'm watching in slow motion. So I'm being hypocritical here because in the same way that we would hyperanalyze a pass interference call in the NFL in slow motion and every blade of grass just wafting through the air, I'm kind of doing this now from an NHL standpoint. Sam Bennett is an absolute stud and a warrior and a guy that, it's going to cost way too much money maybe for the Wild to even entertain, but all the same, he's the type of guy I would want on my team. You can't tell me that Kulak tripped him. You can't tell me that. That's just pure gamesmanship. I'm not complete because the ripple effect off of that awful challenge. We can play this hindsight game. Awful challenge by Edmonton in the first place because that early in the game you are risking what you ultimately saw, the delay of game penalty from the L on the challenge. And then it was Marchand on that ensuing power play that gives the Panthers the lead. But that's a flop if I've ever seen a flop. And I know you watch a little bit of soccer too, so you're familiar with that. What do you think of that moment, Brett?
To me, I feel like you have to let it stand, personally. I don't know if I'd go flop. It definitely didn't take much to bring him down.
No.
He was trying, I could see it where he's trying to back up into just slowly back skate into the crease and try to screen
his skates a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay.
And his foot does get caught 100%. It does.
There was physical contact.
There was. It's undeniable. But that's the thing is with the challenge system, like they've made it where, and we'll hear that a lot on Bumper to Bumper where challenges slowing down the flow of the game and we got to get it right. But then this is what they did in the NHL to make sure. If you want to be sure and you want to slow the game down and challenge it, you better be damn sure you're right, especially in a game such as this. To me, I don't know. I think you have to let it stand, at least in this. He did fall down. I'm looking at it again. He did fall down pretty easy.
He did.
But I don't know. In a game of this, my gut instinct was you got to let it stand and just let him play. But I can see where you're coming from.
That.
I probably would have not challenged it.
He did in slow motion. It looks like a soccer style flop by Bennett. Again, a guy that I'm incredibly enamored with and would love to have on my favorite team. But incredible gamesmanship on his part. And Edmonton's coach should not have challenged that. It ended up being an avalanche of L's in the first. Pure chaos. That's the beauty of this. The beauty of this game. And I'm sitting here on a Thursday morning, waxing poetic on game one of the Stanley Cup final, a game that does not include the Minnesota Wild, as if this is the first hockey game I've ever watched. That is not the case. Although I can't pretend that I'm in a Elite Geisha mind. But all the same, it was, when you try to, because we were kind of doing it a bit with Parker last segment, we're going to watch SGA and the Oklahoma City Thunder tonight hosting the Pacers in game one of the NBA Finals. And you spend time now that your team's out of it comparing yourself to what you're about to see in that case, or even now as a Wild fan, compare it to what you saw last night. In state of hockey, we're hoping for a good return on a Rossi trade this summer. Yeah. That's what the Wild are looking forward to. The Wild, as fans, if you're like me, you're thinking it's going to be really fun to never have to mention money as it pertain to Parise and Suter. We never have to talk about that again, other than just in passing. Hey, remember that whole clown fest? That was awful. So that's all behind us now, which is super cool. And the general manager, I think, has to pitch a perfect game this summer with those assets. But we play that game. It's okay. We're not there yet another year. Can't get out of the first round. Fought hard against Vegas. Man, we keep getting these 2-1 leads and then losing 3 consecutive games. That's not very fun. How do we get to be that team? So that's kind of just, there was a grit and a pace to this thing that kept bringing it back to my squad. You know, I'm thinking about how we're analyzing Matt Boldy in the postseason. And then I'm watching, once again, time and time again, and this is just whether it was last night, but you can look at the last series, a year ago in this first matchup. You know, last year it was Tkachuk in some ways, physically on his own, willing his team to victories. Now a little more muted. Maybe it's injury concerns, but now it's Sam Bennett. Now it's Barkov. And we're begging Kaprizov maybe to have a bigger stamp on playoff games. We'd love to give him more opportunities. How about we win a series once in a while and see some more games from the kid? But all the same, Oilers fans aren't worried about Draisaitl showing up. And I know it's, highest of high-end examples. And McDavid, by the way, last night, awful second period, at least from having an impact on the game, kind of leads to that 3-1 deficit they were facing. In some ways, they just kind of disappeared, got stagnant. But then starting early in the third, it was just hammer time. And that switch gets flipped, watch out. And obviously they were able to tie it up with Ekholm, and then they won. Speaking of delay of game penalties, how bad do you feel if you're Nosek, I think is his name, for Florida last night? I mean, you're just trying to get out of the first OT. You're tired. I'm already thinking about, I wonder how much this impacts game 2. They're going to go to a second overtime, and you're going to see, you saw things start to bog down pace-wise. Florida came out of the gates in the OT, and we're just, 4 or 5 shots in the first 90 seconds, just peppering it, and then Oilers responded and kind of leveled out. But Nosek with the delay of game, with the power play, and then Draisaitl with 20-some seconds left, getting the game winner last night. But you play that game. I want Matt Boldy to be more of a factor in playoff games. You didn't have to ask Draisaitl last night, and so you play that game of comparing yourself to what some of these other teams are doing on the grandest stage. You want to be there, and you're just kind of asking yourself, how do I get there? And that was kind of how I framed up game 1 last night. It was awesome. It's not the first playoff game I've ever watched, but I couldn't help bringing it back to my favorite team as we enter a summer with the draft later this month, free agency, I believe early July, and a chance to make this thing better. And Billy G having to really pitch a perfect game this summer to put this team into the mix. The money's not going to be a conversation, well, for now. We don't have to argue about buyouts and things holding us back, and we're handcuffed here, there, and everywhere. Now we just have to make great personnel decisions. We got to be healthy, and we got to win hockey games. And how do you do that? And what do you do? What are those decisions to be made? Sam Bennett's a name that's out there. Tage Thompson, I think, is a name. Brock Besser has been kind of flirted with name-wise. I think I just saw local cat Brock Nelson just re-signed. And so I don't believe he's going to be an option.
I don't think so.
Matt Duchene is a name that's out there. So just floating that out, whether it's 64686, Bradshaw and Bryant, KFAN text line, talkback machine, free iHeartRadio app, always accepted there as well. But if you're watching that game, State of Hockey, love the Minnesota Wild. You love the fact that they're in the mix. They are a factor, but a team that's never bottomed out and never found themselves really on the brink or the doorstep of what we're watching now between Florida and Edmonton. Where's your head at on that? How does this team even take, what's one thing, if they did that this summer, that would, in your opinion, put them in that spot or put them a step closer? What's a win for you this summer for Billy G? I'd love to hear from you. Text messages, 64686, Talkback Machine, free iHeartRadio app. Of course, at 11 o'clock, we'll continue this conversation, and we'll pop in and out on texts and talkbacks as they come in. But maybe some Vikes bites and continuing on with some talkers here when we return. Nordo in for PA 9 to noon on the Fan.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
Don't miss out on the classic musical Grease at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater. Experience the nostalgia of high school in the 50s with this musical based on the iconic film. Head over our contest page for your chance to win a pair of tickets, including dinner for two. KFAN.com, keyword contest. Enter today.
Bradshaw and Brian, KFAN text line. Saw this after my hoops conversation with Parker Fox. Those names are great. Julius and Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, etc. Doesn't matter. It's Giannis. So talking about how the Timberwolves get better, super cool, summertime of the year. And in our particular case, since we're not hoisting Larry O'Brien's, we're always looking to next year. How do we compete with SGA and the potential budding dynasty that is the Oklahoma City Thunder? And so talking about free agency, don't want the big name. You think about Kevin Durant coming in. How old is he? You're going to have to part with portions of your core. And Wolves fans, feel free to tell me exactly what you think the absolute necessary, vital core is to the how. And maybe parting ways with a Julius or a Dante would be part of that conversation. As it is, I saw some news that the Phoenix Suns are specifically efforting that since they let go of DeAndre Ayton, that they've been trying hard to find and solve the center spot. So maybe that means Rudy and all those things. If you believe that the Oklahoma City Thunder, again, and this can be, it's completely different universes that are wild are in, based on what we were talking about last segment in the Howl. But if you believe in a league where dynasties pop up, we can define dynasty. We know it when we see it. Most recently, we could say it's the Warriors. But when you battle a dynasty, this is kind of coming from the other side. There's something that doesn't excite me about the idea of bringing in Kevin Durant. It excites me just seeing HOF. That's sweet. But in terms of the long-term viability of this team, that does not excite me. Giannis is a different conversation, but I didn't even, other than seeing something on X yesterday, I didn't even think Giannis was, or I don't think he will be, part of any conversations with the Howl. But regardless, KD, that's a thing. So we'll talk about that thing. If you think Oklahoma City is going to be a dynasty, that they're constantly going to be the target in the Western Conference, then you can't battle that with trying to replicate their process. Because what makes them special is that their process yielded unbelievably unique results, where it was a historically ridiculous Paul George trade that ultimately garners picks. It garners Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The accumulation of that combined with being bad really 2 of the last 15 years, it feels like. So they're able to get up and they get Chet. Jalen Williams works out. A trade, the troubled off-court situation that I'm really not that familiar with, but Josh Giddey going bye-bye, he's in Chicago, and bringing in an Alex Caruso. So when you just can't miss for a number of years, like Sam Presti, you love that process. As Vikings fans, we would look at a Brett Veach. We could look at Howie Roseman in Philly, Veach down in Kansas City, of course. And we would say, well, let's do that. Let's just not miss multiple years in a row. And I'm not saying that's not possible, because it certainly is. But all the same, OKC is there. OKC is 3 or 4 years ahead of where our favorite team would like to be. So now that they're there, can you battle them by needing an instant and precipitous, massive growth from a Dillingham? Can you heap a burden of responsibility and opportunity? Let's look at it that way, an opportunity, but then needing to come through on a Terrence Shannon Jr. to play catch up organically. That's not going to work. So on the other side of it, you could argue that if you do have the impenetrable and the guy that hasn't missed, it feels like in half a decade, in Sam Presti, the only way to battle that, the only way to get by that, is actually to catch lightning in a bottle, is actually to take a home run swing and connect. And that home run swing would be leveraging or potentially parting ways with your core and getting somebody like a Kevin Durant on this particular team. So that would be the argument in the other direction. Now, text message again. Keep Ant, Jaden, and TSJ. Make everyone else available for trade. To the Wild, talking about them last segment. Billy G needs to refrain signing the exact same kind of player. You feel that at all, Brett?
I can empathize with that text.
The ceiling for all those guys is the exact same and isn't high. He needs a definitive home run signing. So that's where we kind of left things last segment, and looking forward to more text messages and talkbacks in terms of who that might be. I floated names. Tage Thompson, he's 27. I think he had 44 goals last year. I've seen the name Dylan Larkin being floated.
That'd be fun.
He's 28. I mean, these are all 60, 70, 80 point guys. These aren't slouches.
Mm-hmm.
The most intriguing one to me, but maybe ultimately to the texter's point, this wouldn't be a home run. It would absolutely make sense, would be a Matt Duchene. I saw that. I think it was in an Athletic piece, may have been Joe Smith talking about it, where, the age is an issue, but with the age comes the value of the contract. He made like $3 million last year, and he was a 30-goal guy and contributed to where Dallas found themselves despite falling short. He knows Hines. I think they crossed paths in Nashville. So there's that connection/relationship. Does that mean it's a positive one? I don't know. Trading Rossi, that's a talker. Sliding a boatload of money to Kaprizov, still a talker. Hey, JoJo's back.
On about as cheap of a contract as you can get, basically, yeah.
Well, with that said, can he complain about it? $800K might be a value. If you go cheap enough, at some point it's a value.
Yeah.
A lot of people up and down opinions on Mr. Johansson, but $800K though. $800K. Is it a steal? Is it something that's going to get this team a step in the right direction? So a home run of a signing, I'm totally with you, but who is that guy? Brock Besser, local love, kind of, I was talking to somebody about it yesterday. They feel, Besser's year last year kind of down a little bit, but all the same, is it just because he's now kind of in a spot where he's languishing? Are you expecting that spark and that evolution could restart or begin again here in Minnesota? We know the names. Who's that home run signing? Is it a Bennett? Is Bennett even achievable? I don't know. So text and talkbacks on that. We'll continue. And again, Russo Radio, Michael Russo covering the NHL Stanley Cup final. He's going to join at 11, and we'll kind of rebroach some of these topics and talkers, not only with our hockey team, but an incredible game one. And Edmonton en route to getting a cup for the city. First time since 93, since the Canadiens did it. And it was an awesome game one. Game two, manana. We'll talk with Russo more about that at 11. But for now, we're going to change gears, and we're going to get to Ben Gessling. Covers the Vikings for the Star Tribune. Weekly guest in studio, and he's next right here on The Fan.
Are you still quoting 30-year-old movies? Have you said cool beans in the past 90 days? Do you think Discover isn't widely accepted? If this sounds like you, you're stuck in the past. Discover is accepted at 99% of places that take credit cards nationwide. And every time you make a purchase with your card, you automatically earn cash back. Welcome to the now. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard. Based on the February 2024 Nielsen report.
Here at the Almond Joy Factory, where tropical vibes abound, we use soft, fresh-tasting coconut.
The crunchiest almonds and delicious chocolate candy.
Ah, but do you know what our most important ingredient is? Sometimes you feel like a nut.
Sometimes you don't.
Almond Joy's got nuts and something even way better than that. Yes, Almond Joy is made with almonds and joy.
It's summer. Time to enjoy long days, lazy nights, and great food. Because Uber Eats has deals all summer long. So, when hunger strikes, don't sweat it. Delicious deals are just a tap away on Uber Eats. Enjoy all your favorite grocery items delivered straight to you. Get ice cream, soda, and snacks from your favorite stores like Wegmans and CVS and make the most of every moment. Now that sounds like a good summer. Order now on Uber Eats. Terms apply. Product availability varies by region. See app for details.
With depression, it feels like every day you're just going through the motions. I wanted something that could help me feel better fast and that also lasts. That's when my doctor told me about Auvelity.
In a study, Auvelity started working for some as early as 1 week, with significant improvements seen on average at 6 weeks compared to placebo.
Auvelity is helping me to feel more like myself. I'm glad I talked to my doctor about Auvelity.
Auvelity is a prescription medicine for adults with major depressive disorder, MDD. Auvelity is not approved for children under 18. Auvelity may increase suicidal thoughts and actions in young adults. Tell your doctor about sudden changes to mood, thoughts, or behavior. Do not take Auvelity if you have a history of seizure, eating disorder, or have abruptly stopped drinking alcohol or taking benzodiazepines, barbiturates, or anti-seizure medicine. Serious allergic reactions can occur. Do not take if you are allergic to dextromethorphan, bupropion, or any of the ingredients in Auvelity. Do not take with MAOIs. High blood pressure, manic episodes, serious eye problems, and dizziness can occur. Report all medicines you take to avoid a life-threatening condition. Do not take Auvelity if you are or may become pregnant. Side effects can include dizziness, headache, diarrhea, feeling sleepy, dry mouth, sexual function problems, and excessive sweating.
Ask your healthcare provider if Auvelity is right for you. Visit Auvelity.com. That's AUVELITY.com. Or call 866-496-2976 for more information.